Hello and welcome to Bench Opinions.
Hello.
Today we will be chatting about rugby.
We're back.
If you thought today was actually going to be football, we have changed it around. So football was yesterday, so if you were looking for football, tune into that. Why is that so funny, Maxi?
No, that's just... it's more in my head that things are funny than in real life.
Okay, well we can't see into your brain.
If you can see it, you can believe it, my bro.
There was another weekend of Six Nations, and we are coming to the end of the tournament now. So I think this episode we're going to predominantly speak about how we see this tournament ending, who still has a realistic chance, and what are the other teams looking like. France beat Ireland quite significantly last weekend on Saturday.
I thought that was surprising.
You thought it was a surprising result?
Maybe not maybe not that France won, but the margin of victory surprised me.
It was quite a significant one. They beat them 27-42.
Yeah, and it was in Dublin.
Yeah, that's wild. I think the French must be kicking themselves for that game, that English game.
Yeah,
because I think I think England made it hard for them, and I think France didn't turn up. But they must be thinking to themselves, how the hell did we lose to England?
Well, I mean, they're in the driver's seat, but I don't understand how Ireland shit the bed that bad. Was there indications that this was going to happen? Have I missed something? Because I picked Ireland to win by 12.
Yeah, that was a mistake on your part, wasn't it? I don't know. I didn't think that this margin was going to be the case. I think the score line is a little bit flattering to Ireland, actually, because they scored 2 tries quite close to the end of the game. And another consideration is that they lost Antoine Dupont in the 36th minute or something like that. So they were playing with Luku. To be fair, Luku played incredibly well. So it was almost
Luki,
like...
no touchy.
Luki, no touchy.
What are we saying about that Dupont injury? Do you think they
if
should
it was
be...
legal or not?
Yeah, because the French are...
No, the French are upset.
On the barricades.
Yeah,
the Les Miserables song is being remade there. They're all fucking marching through the streets there with their flags.
Yeah, he's gotten torn his ACL, so he's going to be out for a couple of months. It was Tag Furlong, eh? No, Tag Byrne.
Yeah.
The lock
came through the ruck, fell on his knee.
Yeah.
But then I saw after the game, I think, was it the Ireland coach or Irish players who were like, that happens in every game.
Yeah, and David Campese came out and was like, but he's just waiting. He's just fighting for relevance. But he said Ireland targeted him and they should be the Irish, that they finally getting what they deserve and whatever. I think that was a little bit of a bitter taste in the mouth. The one thing I will say about, you asked the question about whether there were signs of this. I do feel like there's been a slight sort of shadow hanging over the Irish team, or like creeping up on the Irish, of this question of like, are they getting too old? You know, are some of these players that have performed at such a high level that are like a little older now, are their performances going to start dropping at some point?
What I think they're not, average age isn't that high, is it? It's not as high as the Springboks.
It's not as high as it used to be during the 2023 World Cup. They have brought in some new players, but...
Yeah, but I mean...
Is it maybe not that Farrell is gone, that maybe this is the first sign of them not being coached by their coach?
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Look, I think there's just certain positions that I think with the changing of the guard that they have to figure out. You know, I think there's like the key combinations as well. At 10, I still don't think they know who the favorite is.
Prendergast got some heat this weekend, eh?
Yeah. But the thing is, I think the French played a very, very smart game, particularly targeting Ireland in certain areas.
Well, you can only target Ireland when you're playing Ireland.
No, but I mean, their style of play was very specific to hurting the way that Ireland plays. I think, you know, if you looked at the game, they had like one guy in the back line, like as a sweeper, and it was usually Thomas Ramos who was running up and down. And then you had 14 guys just standing in line. And I don't know if Prendergast didn't have enough time to think about it, but you very seldomly saw like a chip over the top and trying to like target those empty spaces. And even when they did, you had the likes of Damien Panot, or you had your BB on the side, Bill Beret, who are extremely good, but also extremely quick at getting back and then getting the ball to clear it. So I think the French really sort of brought their forward pack into the game by stopping the Irish from trying to run around by having so many people on the line.
Yeah. Where do Ireland go from here? Because they dropped down the world rankings, which I think will have hurt them the most from an ego perspective.
Because that's all they got usually, right? That's in quarterfinals.
No silverware.
Well, it's usually the Six Nations title, their world rankings, and then
quarterfinals and a zombie.
And zombie. You mean Rossi?
I think we're not getting any new fans in Ireland then.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of people.
No, they are actually nice bunch of people.
We are there.
You say that, but then we had a girl that was at our table with us on the weekend. She got very drunk and it wasn't very nice.
She was upset.
And anytime you made a comment, like you could even compliment Ireland, and it was just like she would look over at you and go like, "Fuck you, Klaus." I was like, Jesus, okay.
Or is she Scottish?
Was that a Scottish accent? I was trying to go
Sounded
for
a bit like Indian to me.
What were you trying to go for?
I was trying to go for Irish.
But why would she swear at you if you're complimenting Ireland?
Yeah,
She just swore at you.
That's
That's what I'm saying. She just
okay.
swore
She
at you
was
the
an
entire
angry
time.
lady.
Well, by the time I arrived at this bar, which was after that game, this lady was already 7 gin and tonics in too deep.
Yeah.
No,
Anyway.
it was intense.
Tom and I were just sitting there trying to avoid eye contact with her because you didn't want her to come over to you and start talking to you.
Yeah, Shane, one of our friends who joined us for the first time ever, he got sat next to her and she treated her ear off for quite a while there.
Maybe she's a fan of this podcast.
Maybe.
But yeah, it's a good question though with Ireland. Where do they go from here? What is the plan with Farrell? He stepped away. He's going to do the tour this.
He's just doing the Lions
tour,
and
and
he's
then
coming back.
Head
Yeah,
back. All right. Yeah, I think they just have to. They also just have to figure out a couple of key positions. I think, Sexton was just such a cornerstone, and I think they have to try and figure out who's really going to play at 10 because Prendergast started on the bench again, didn't he, this week?
Did he?
No, he started.
Did he start again?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, if he's copping flack, and I think there was just no second questions about Sexton for so long.
Yeah. If you think of the in between World Cup phases as your building blocks, and you were to lose against such a direct competitor, playing a really B-string side, trying a lot of new things, I think you'd be less deflated as an Ireland fan than losing with essentially with a few players missing, maybe your best team doing the same thing and just getting shown up at home that you are way off the pace. Because what's the excuse other than Farrell?
I think their style of play hasn't evolved, and I think they've stuck to the same kind of game plan for too long, and they're being found out. As I said, I think the French played in such a way that they managed to mitigate the attacking threat of Ireland, especially when it comes to playing around the ruck.
Yeah.
They've always been renowned for having like very skillful forwards with soft touches and doing these like short inside passes that, South Africa got found out with that like twice in a row. It was quite embarrassing actually. But if you've got 14 French beefy oaks in the line, then you're just not going to have those gaps, right?
Beefy boys. No, but
the French are huge.
I will, but also then let's ask the other question: Is this one of the first signs that France are as good as I think they are? And I think they're a huge threat.
They are,
and I think they're only going to get better. And I don't think in contrast to Ireland, for example, they don't have an aging squad. If anything. Look, the loss of Dupont's going to hurt them, but he'll come back from it. And with their league being so strong and that pool of players just being so well domestically managed or domestically created, I think they're good, and I think they're
at the
scary.
World Cup, they're scary.
Yeah.
But even their next scrum halves coming through, like Luku, Baptiste Serin, like those guys are also fire.
Very good.
So even if Dupont's out, I think they lose a little bit like what South Africa would lose in Asio Khaleesi in terms of like that idol, that sort of inspiration. But in terms of quality of players, they've also got
enough
depth squad depth.
I was saying this to Dom because we were discussing whether they're going to be a real threat at the next World Cup, and you obviously don't know what's that far down the line. But I think the only glimmer of hope that you have when you're not a French fan is that because France refused to send their A-team on any of the overseas tours, you always think that those World Cups in New Zealand, Australia, back in the day, South Africa can't really talk about that anymore, but that's such a different space for them to be in that you can just hope that they're unsettled by that. And if I was French rugby looking ahead to the World Cup, I'd actually start sending my teams down and breaking up the league just to make them get them used to being in a foreign country with their A team, playing in front of hostile fans, because that to me is the only reason why they wouldn't be one of the main favorites. Especially that's just from currently.
Especially considering the fact that the next World Cup is in the Southern Hemisphere, it is in Australia. Yeah. So, they should be going out there and I think, testing themselves in those conditions.
And I think their mid-season, their June-July test would be against New Zealand this year, and they've already said that they're not going to send their main squad down. But they should, in my opinion, they should definitely consider it in the upcoming 2 years.
What I do find interesting as well is how the dynamic is going to sort of play out between sort of New Zealand's ability to, because New Zealand, I don't know if you'd call them, I don't think New Zealand ever have to rebuild because they're just always so good. Yeah. But I don't know if New Zealand can now just quietly go about their business, sweep them aside June, July, and maybe go into the next World Cup with maybe a little less noise around them and what that might do for them, because they go into every World Cup as favorites. Yeah. And I think the last World Cup wasn't any different, even though I think maybe the last World Cup was one of the few World Cups where there were a lot of question marks around the All Blacks with their coach and the form that they had, and South Africa beating them, giving them a real hiding at Twickenham not so long before the World Cup started. But there's an interesting element to that as well, because if France really steal the fireworks, I think with Rassie being the way he is, South Africa and us coming off 2 World Cups, South Africa will always be the loud, sort of the squeaky wheel in the room to a certain degree. Yeah. It's interesting to see, if all the All Blacks can't just slowly but surely build something. And again, yes, of course, as the All Blacks, you'll be like, we want to test ourselves against the best team. So they would, and the All Black fans would love to play the best, strong France team. But at the same time, as the coaching staff, you must be like, cool. Yeah. Let's send our boys out there. We'll probably win those games. Let's use those games and move forward. And I think you can glean some positives from it as the All Blacks coaching setup.
Well, the World Cup is still 2 years away, so a lot can still happen in the meantime. But what is important for this year in terms of all the international teams competing against one another is that at the end of this year, the world rankings determine the draw for the World Cup. So you don't want to be dropping in rankings too much, especially somebody like Ireland. You want to stay up there so that you get a favorable pick. With regards to France sending their B string or their second side, maybe not the smartest of choices with that in consideration.
But they're not going to change. Should we go through some other results from the weekend?
Yeah, we can just quickly fly through the results because mainly I want to talk about who's still in the running. So this week we had the Ireland-France game, 27-42 to France. Scotland beating Wales not as comfortably as I would have thought.
Wales made a great comeback at the end of that game.
Ended on a 35-29.
Yeah. They got a losing bonus point, and I think it's very positive for Wales fans just to see that there is life in that squad, and there are players who've got heart and want to win. Scotland were in control of that game, to be fair, but Wales did rally. And it's good to see.
Also, one try being disallowed for what is a rule, but jumping over, that was unbelievable.
It was such a good try.
Such a good try. So, you look at the score, and I mean, obviously, it is what it is.
And coconuts.
You look, it's if butts and coconuts, but you look at the score and you go, oh, geez, So, but it's good. It's good for Welsh rugby, and also I think a vindication for letting Gatland go, regardless of whether they're going to be built back to where they were 10 years ago. I don't think that's relevant, but I think it just shows you that whatever fight might have been in them was just lost through the environment that had sort of been created over time.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last game that we had on Sunday was England versus Italy at Twickenham Alliance Stadium, 47-24 to England. I actually thought Italy was playing quite well for the first half, and then England just decided to completely demolish them in the second half.
Did you see that video of that Italian trying to clear out a ruck, and he grips over, and it almost looks like he's sticking his fingers in the Englishman's bum and ripping like this. I'll send you the video.
I haven't seen it.
Some dude posted and was like, I think I need to speak to HR because it's so hectic. Yeah. Wow. And then after it clips away to the Italian just laughing, and you just think, ugh, gives you Adrian Strauss vibes.
So that means for the table, we have currently got the top 3 positions all within 1 or 2 points of one another. France in the lead with 16 points, England with 15, and Ireland with 14. They've each got 3 wins, but it's the bonus points. I'm not 100% sure what the split is on. I assume they all got a losing bonus point, maybe, or something like that. Or, I'm not sure, but they've all got different amounts of losing points. France 4, England has got 3, and Ireland has got 2. That means that for anybody to realistically win, other than France, England would have to. Sorry, I'm phrasing that terribly.
Yes, I was going to say.
If
France win, they win.
If France win, no, not necessarily.
Hey?
Oh, sorry, no. If France win, so there is a way that France can still lose even if they win.
Yes.
If they win, and England wins against Wales with a winning bonus point, so 4 tries, right?
Yes.
They need to make up a difference of 86 points.
Oh my God.
Because it goes...
Like the Blue Bulls there in the Super Rugby against the Reds back in the day. Remember that? They had to win by 94 points. And they did.
It goes
Hey.
it goes to points difference, and that's currently at 86 points. So
Yes.
it's possible. Is it realistic? No.
I feel like Zach Galifianakis with all those numbers.
When you went to play Blackjack
Yeah.
in The Hangover. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's currently what the situation is.
Very well explained.
Sorry, I just looked at something else that I've written and I accidentally called Luku Lucy. So different guy.
Okay, so maybe run us through the fixtures on the last game week so that we know who's playing who and when.
The fixtures are Italy versus Ireland. So you would think that Ireland can hopefully get it done.
Ireland are very likely out of this, right? Because a lot has to go their way for them to still win. For England and France to lose is...
So if
Here we go.
this is this other permutation, right? So if
Strap in,
Ireland,
people.
win with a
Yes.
bonus point,
Yes.
and England win without a bonus
Yes.
point, then Ireland and England are on the same amount of points.
Okay.
Right? Then you have to start looking at points difference.
Yeah.
Points difference between them currently is
Not that wide.
7.
Yeah. So that's...
So if France doesn't win and
Okay.
Ireland and England do, then it does get quite
Okay,
interesting.
so there is... It's all up in the air.
It's all up in the air. But you would think that France would take it up.
Well,
I think. I don't know. What do you guys think? Who do you think?
Don't see Scotland beating France in
In
Paris.
Paris.
Not happening.
No. If the game was at Murrayfield, I would give it a sniff.
Banana peel kind of situation. Yeah.
But the fact that it's in Paris and what they just did to Ireland,
Yeah.
yeah, and the fact that Scotland conceded 30
And I
points
think there's
almost to
also
Wales.
I think there's also a lot can be said about Scotland kind of being a slowly deflating balloon, because I think that again they were like
Yeah.
again the fans were excited, and I think they had genuine reason to be excited, and they have kind of fizzled.
Well, I
I feel
think-
they got the job done, but like they never I think people always look at Scotland as the possible disruptor, and they just haven't been.
Well, I think maybe what we should do after next week, or what we should do next week is maybe just have a review of every team, Six Nations, and then we can talk about how Scotland have fared, because I agree with you on that. I think if you're Scotland, you should be concerned.
Back to the drawing board.
I mean, Dominic and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, where we were saying, like, is Townsend under pressure?
I think
And-
me and you spoke about
Or
that.
so did we? I get
You just don't know.
confused who,
You were
having
constantly
the
on this
individual
couch with someone else.
But at the time, I definitely thought. At the time, I
Sometimes
definitely
asleep.
thought he was fine, but
Yeah.
the more rugby we watch, the more I start to think it's not looking good for him.
So should we run through who we think is the winner? And if we all say France, that's kind of lame.
It's going to be France. I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm
He's
not.
got France.
I'm an idiot.
We all have
but
to
I'm,
pick someone else. I'm going to let you go next. I'm going to be saddled with. Oh, you're going to have to pick England. Your worst nightmare.
Why? Oh, obviously, I'm going to pick England because it's more realistic that.
All right, I'm putting all my money on Ireland.
How much money is that?
No money at all. There was another bit of rugby deciding the South African Conference Shield in the URC.
yeah.
Sharks playing the Lions.
Yeah, the Sharks
Jesus,
went
the
down.
way you looked at me with like an empty gaze, I was
so
like,
confused.
did I dream this?
The Border Bulldogs against the Falca.
I was like, this is Dispatch now suddenly even playing against the EP Elephants or something. Yes, no, the Lions had their second leg essentially against the Sharks.
Very
at the
narrow
Shark Tank.
loss.
Very narrow loss. Just a reminder, the Lions beat the Sharks when they came up to the Highveld. and the Sharks really pushed them to the limit there at the end.
So the Sharks win the South African Conference.
Shield,
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think, like you guys discussed, sort of have nailed down almost their top 8 spot now. And the Stormers and the Lions have a lot to do to make it up.
The Lions...
I'm glad you guys lost because it leaves the Stormers a little bit of a chance to try and catch you guys.
Yeah, the Lions, with their losing bonus point, have now also gotten themselves into the top 8. But as we discussed last week, the top... sorry, not the top, but the 8th position until this... Essentially, like the 14th, 15th position is all split by 1 or 2 points. So all still in this.
The Sharks need to figure out a way to show up, I think. And we spoke about it briefly off camera that all points towards probably not the best of coaching.
Don't you think the Lions were just really good?
I think the Lions are good, but if you've got that amount of superpower in the
and what
Sharks,
I'm saying is, like, you're going into knockout rugby, you're going into the final phase you kind of mentally have to start preparing for the final phase. And I think against the Lions, of course the Lions are good, but the Lions are not Leinster, and the Lions are not, Munster away from home or whatever. And I think
you just get the feeling that with the Sharks, with all the talent they have, it's a little bit of
they should be more dominant. I feel
a little bit of failure to launch there. That movie with Matthew McConaughey. Yes, it's those movies.
Just the one about erectile dysfunction, eh?
No.
I'm kidding.
That was when he was still living at home as a 40-year-old man. That guy was in some terrible movies before he really turned into a good actor.
What was that other one? Gold Rush? Gold?
Fool's Gold.
Fool's Gold. Love that movie.
I like that. I thought that was great. Kate Hudson was in it, and she's my favorite actress.
Okay.
Fucking rom-com.
Anything else on rugby?
To the Sharks, they've got a lot of injuries currently.
Yeah.
Also a little bit concerning for the Springboks, of course, because the likes of like Yim Netzebeth, he's still suffering with concussion. I think he's slowly getting into training, like from a like cardio perspective, but hasn't gone back to full contact rugby yet. So hopefully that clears up before the Springbok.
I think with the way that Russie's already said that he's going to rotate the squad, this year is not too deciding.
No, but you still don't want him to... Like Russie had also
you don't
said
want him to be concussed until the next World Cup.
They don't want to bring him back too early. He gets another concussion, and then he might have like a chronic concussion.
Don't want him forgetting who he is and stuff like that.
You don't want him getting into any of that, into that CTE business.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm alluding to. Did you guys just keep joking about people being Dorf?
No, he's not dumb. He's just...
No, he's going to forget his name.
No, he's going to forget who he is because he's getting hit in the head so much.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Okay.
There was a lineman camp that happened last week. I actually think we should keep it for next week because there was a lot of stuff that came out in that, which was quite interesting. And I don't think the two of you have listened to the press conferences.
Not a single thing I know.
So then we'll keep that for next week. Something for you to get excited about. So if you enjoyed the podcast, like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah.
And if you would like to see what we did last week, then you can check that episode at the end of the week. And tomorrow we will be talking about golf.
Leftovers.
Golf, cricket, all that stuff.
Thank you very much.
Bye.